I finally did get around to cleaning. I liked to call it rage cleaning. I would just get so sick of it. The sink would be piled so high. And it was like a science experiment sometimes down in there. So I'd just be cussing and like throwing stuff around and slamming cupboard doors. And oh my goodness, it was not something you want to see. Good morning, men. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, where we talk about what most men won't talk about. Today, we're going to be talking about self-love. Now, I know this can sound like a self-help book, and I'm sorry, but Tilghman actually had a pretty neat story. He texted me in the middle of the week with this idea, and I asked him to tell me the story before we started recording, and regrettably, Tilghman, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to tell it again. So, Tilghman, take it away.
Oh no, that's all right, Chris. I love to tell stories, man. So, but no, man. Like I said, though, it was like late Wednesday night. I was laying in bed. A bunch of thoughts were just coming into my mind. It was like, and the key point of that day, being a dad, it's easy to grow impatient, and so I was overfilled with this dad guilt. I was like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm a horrible father. I'm not a good husband. This and that. Just those normal thoughts of like, can I do better? How can I do better? You need to be better, kind of thing. Just scolding myself. And I was laying in bed and just wide awake. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And that's when I texted you. I was like, hey, we need to talk about this. And so there really wasn't, like I said, nothing drastic really changed, but it helped me open my eyes like, hey, man, let's stop talking so bad about yourself, because you wouldn't talk about Chris this way in front of Chris's face, or you wouldn't be, or so like, you wouldn't talk about anybody else like this, like you're talking to yourself, is what it came down to. And so I was laying in there and just kind of fell on me. I texted that idea over to you, and I said, I kind of just laid there for a second, and I was like, man, I really talk bad about myself. I get really upset with myself. And it kind of made me question, like, do I love myself like I love my wife, or do I love myself like I love my son? Um, and then, like I said, my wife is a great example of it, of like showing self-love and having like very little negative self-talk. Because she'll be getting ready for her day. She'll be in the bathroom looking at herself in the mirror, like, "Oh, I look so good today. I love myself and stuff." And so, I admire that. I'm always quick to agree, like, "Oh yeah, you look great today." But then I'm thinking, I could do that with myself. It sounds cheesy, but I see that it's helping her. So why can't I help myself? So I've made it a goal this week to really diminish the self-talk the best I can, the negative self-talk the best I can. Um, and just really focus on the positive aspects. And we talked about, I think before you started recording, Chris, was um, being 1% better every day rather than having to do drastic changes every single day. And that's what's kind of come down with the negative self-talk, is like, you're not going to change that internal voice within one day. You might not even change it within 30 days. But if you can just change one or two phrases a day within your mind, that's going to play out 10 years later. You're going to be nothing but positive thoughts, positive attitude, positive self-talk. There's not going to be so much negativity or guilt coming in from your actions that might lead to that self-hate or that negative self-talk. So that's just kind of where my mind's been at this week. So I've made it a goal of mine to really think before I talk about myself negatively, and say, hey, you're not doing that bad. I love you just like anybody else around you loves you as well. So let's quit hating on yourself and love yourself.
Dude, that's a really good story. And for me, part of me is just like, oh my gosh, this is such a, what is this self-help BS that you are talking about? Like, there's part of me like, this is so cheesy. This is so dumb. However, if you actually, sorry guys, if you go look in the Bible, there's some support for this very idea. Because one of the teachers of the law way back in the day asked Jesus, like, hey, what's the two greatest commandments? Or what is the greatest commandments? Or maybe it's the other way around, where Jesus asks what the two greatest commandments are. But either way, the question is asked, what are the two greatest, or what is the greatest commandment? What is the greatest commandment? There we go. And Jesus says, or the answer is, love the Lord your God and serve him only, and love your neighbor as yourself. And it's been this really interesting kind of thought experiment that I've heard, is how sorry. If you don't love and take care of yourself, are you even capable of truly loving and taking care of somebody else? And I know that there would be some objections, like, and trust me, I had these objections too of like, no, 100%, I can totally like disregard myself and take care of other people. And in the short term, I would say you're right. Yeah, like 100%. Like you can like squash down your inability to take care of your body, your inability to take care of your health, or your psyche or any of that, and take care of somebody else. That's totally possible. However, in the long term, and kind of underneath the surface, I've found, especially with my kids and with my wife, if I'm not taking care of myself well, then they won't get taken care of well. Perfect example. Sometimes my wife has to leave. I work from home, but sometimes my wife has to leave and go do stuff. Well, me, I don't eat very much. I can sit at this desk from breakfast through dinner and not have a bite to eat. There's been days back in the day where I didn't even get up to go to the bathroom. Granted, I was very busy, but like I was able to shut that down and just push through. But what my wife has pointed out to me is that when she leaves, the children don't get fed very well. Yes, don't come and get me. They are getting fed. All right. But it's not nearly to the level that my wife feeds them. Like me, when I eat, I can grab like just a few slices of cheese and eat that. Slices of cheese, a beef stick, a banana, like hardly anything of much like it's of substance, but it's not like a good meal or anything like that. And right there, that's a prime example of if I learned how to love myself well and feed my body well, give it good things, something to look forward to at lunchtime, maybe in the longer term, I would do better at feeding my children. So that's just a small example. Gosh, I don't know where to go from there, but
No, you kind of sparked something in me, so I can pick up if you need me to.
yeah, go ahead, please.
So no, so honestly, it's you mentioning that because it's people look at that as like a oh, you're making your life convenient, so that's good. You're moving quick. You're making the important things work. But if you're working from home and not using the bathroom, Chris, come on. Now
No, it hasn't gotten to there yet. I do
right,
use
right.
it.
So, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's kind of funny. My wife and I talked about that the other day. It's like in regards to food, my wife and I talked about it. She said, I want to eat cleaner because I love myself. And I
Mm,
was like, huh, I've never looked at it like that, And being a guy that's always, I've never really struggled like being severely obese or anything, but I've always struggled with like being on the heavier side. And then I know in the long term, being heavier as you get older is rough on your body. Um, and so she really helped point that out for me as well. Like, hey, if I love myself, I'm going to take the time I need to do, like meal prep, do what I need to do, get the proper foods right and readied up. And, Chris, you know how my schedule was before. My son did not eat very much either when I was home with him in the morning. So I'm right there
yeah.
with you, man. So it's like, if I love myself enough to put 3 eggs and a handful of spinach in my body every single morning, then I
Mhm,
love myself enough to do that. I'm going to love everybody enough in my family to do that for them as well.
mhm.
So it really helps come into play. And I feel like when you fuel your body with the right things in regards to your sustenance, your
Mhm.
literature, your social media, whatever you're doing, it's going to help you with that self-love as well. So getting the right amount of sleep, staying off the phone, quit watching negative things, stuff like that. All the
Yeah.
small things do add up. And so it comes back to that, just changing a little bit each day to where before you know it, you're nothing but a positive self-talking machine. And you're just like, I love myself
Mhm.
so much. And you're out there helping people find their self-love too.
Yeah. And you just reminded me of something which I will remember here in just a second. Um, oh man, what was it? Oh my gosh, it was so good. Ah, yes, 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 yes. Okay, I got it. All right, I've remembered. Uh, cut to me remembering. So, um, so the whole part of me that says like, oh, this is such BS, this whole self-love thing, like that is like a phrase that goes around, and people, you can take that whole self-love phrase and make it mean a few different things. But what we're saying when we mean self-love, what we mean when we say self-love is it doesn't look so much like being nice to yourself and just like give yourself whatever you want. It's not just like positive thinking. It's more long-term focused. It's saying, I want my body, my mind, my spirit to flourish. So I'm going to do the things that are right now so that it will flourish over years instead of just feeling good right now
Yeah.
in this moment. Because I mean, hey, I'll be honest, like cracking open a beer at the end of the day, man, feels good. I could say that's self-love. I'm loving myself. But over the long term, you get liver problems if you don't do that well, if you don't shepherd that well or discipline yourself well. And just to like another story on this whole idea of like love your neighbor as yourself. Way back when my wife and I were first married, our house was trashed. Like we were not good at taking care of our house. Well, when when I finally did get around to cleaning, I liked to call it rage cleaning because I would just get so sick of it. The sink would be piled so high, and it was like a science experiment sometimes down in there. And I was I was just so pissed, and so I'd just be cussing and like throwing stuff around and slamming cupboard doors and washing dishes and throwing clothes in the wash. And oh my goodness, it was not something you want to see. Well, after a while, I started to think like, man, why can I only clean when I am just so pissed off about it? Well, I thought about it for a minute, and this came back to when I was a kid. My brother and I didn't keep our room very well. And at some point, like my poor mother had been trying to get us to clean our room and just said to my dad, like, probably said, like, I can't deal with it anymore. Please go make our sons clean their room. Or my dad just found out or something. He came in and he saw it and he was like, you are not respecting your mother. I am pissed. And he like took his arm and just went across the dressers, pulled everything down into the middle of the room, cleared off every bookshelf, cleared out every drawer, dumped it all into the middle of the room, broke some of our stuff. I was heartbroken. Like we were both, well, I was crying. I don't know if my brother was crying, but I was just heartbroken. I'm like, this is so terrible. Like one of the worst memories of my life. But I kind of get it. On one level, I kind of get it. So what I realized is that, the reason why I can only clean something when I'm in a rage is because that's how I learned cleaning gets done. Cleaning gets done when dad is pissed. So if I get pissed, then it'll get done. Well, so after I think it was like maybe in the first year or so, that was kind of what my wife and I were dealing with. I learned that I needed to start changing the script. I needed to start saying, I clean because I love my house. I clean because I love myself. And you might think it's not that big of a deal, but over time, as I kept on saying that to myself, it's actually become more of a habit. And our house is more or less clean, even though we have 3 children and they tend to set off their own little explosions wherever they go. It's amazing what just that simple self-talk of saying, I love myself, so I'm going to clean. That's the kind of love that we're talking about. And that's why loving yourself is important, because if you don't love yourself well, then you can't love people or the places around you well. That's all I got.
Yeah. I love it, man. No, it's yeah, I mean, it just comes down to doing it's like you said, you just got to retrain and I'm back.
Reparent yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness. Boom. Thank you, Chris. Yes, you have to reparent yourself, man. Because it's like it's kind of like you said, it was kind of embedded in your mind, like, hey, this is how I'm gonna get clean. I gotta get mad so I can clean the house. But as you start telling yourself,
Seriously.
like, hey, yeah, 1% better each day, like, hey, I might be mad right now, but I'm cleaning my house because I love my house, you know. But you
Yeah.
know, you might be mad, and I'm sure in those first few weeks, first few months, it was tough on you. So
The first few years.
okay, yeah, because it's so embedded in you, right? So it's just like it comes down to just getting like you said, reparenting yourself, and it's like, how do I say this? It's like taking a trip to the recycle bin, but this time getting the stuff that's been recycled for so many years and just throwing it into the trash can finally.
Hmm.
So
That's an interesting visual.
yeah, that's the first thing. I just looked at this box in front of me. I was like, you know, it's trying to this. It's like taking it from these old things that just keep on getting recycled back into your subconscious mind.
Hmm.
One day you just have to sit down, go through the recycle bin, and toss some of it out because it's done being
Mhm.
recycled. You have to be the one that breaks those generational chains, is what they say, as
Yeah.
some people might say. So
Yeah. And just as a disclaimer, this is not like me raging at my dad. He and I talk, and we just had him over for lunch the other day, and
heck
we've
yeah.
talked about that moment. I said, "Man, Dad, that really sucked." And he's like, "Oh no, I was a teddy bear," and I'm like, "No."
Most dads would
Now,
say that.
from the stories he tells me, though, compared to his dad, he is a teddy bear.
Nice.
So God bless my dad for changing the things that he could in his lifetime to the best of his ability to parent me better, because I'm going to leave my kids with something, some kind of wounding, some kind of trauma. I'm sure, like, I'm going to blow up at my kids, and my kids are going to be like, "Man, you did this, you did this." And you know what? That's okay. It's not good, but it's okay. We're going to deal with it. We'll talk about it as my kids become older, and they can put words to the what's going on inside their hearts and their minds. Um, so I'm just wanted to disclaim that and say, like, I'm not saying that my dad was a horrible parent. If you want to say that, sure, we're all horrible parents at times. Like, we suck. We're
Oh yeah.
human sometimes. Like, it's
Oh yeah.
okay.
All the time.
Yeah,
Not all the time.
yeah. So that's a pretty good place to leave it, I think. We did take a little bit of a rabbit trail, but this whole idea of loving yourself is not some fluffy, positive talk, do what you feel in the moment sort of thing. No, this is a long-term focused growth mindset to where we become 1% better each day. Hey, if we can be 10% better each day, we'll take it. But we're not going to just pussyfoot around the idea. We're not going to beat around the bush and not deal with the things that need to change in us. Like, self-love is about truly long-term thinking about what is good for you, and then practicing that on yourself, and then that'll just naturally flow out into the world. So, love you guys. Hope to see you next time. We'll see you later.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace out.
Dude, that was good. That was
I like
good.
it.